when you realize you can't be in every room, conversation, every feature that's being built or campaign that's being marketed. And you start to, for me, it was a really exciting moment to see big, exciting things happening that I had nothing to do with, or in some cases, very little knowledge of the specifics of how it was being done. And going through that transition of, in some ways, we call it giving away your Legos, right? Like handing off the projects that you used to be a critical part of, and just, checking in on them. Like it's not abdication, right? It's delegation, not abdication. So being able to delegate and then, get the right amount of involvement and figure out what that right amount of involvement is. And I think that was something that started happening at 25, 30 people. And it's continuing to be an interesting challenge, opportunity to this day.
Welcome to Grow Think Tank. This is the one and only place where you will get insight from the founders and the CEOs of the fastest growing privately held companies. I am the host. My name is Gene Hammett. I help leaders and their teams navigate the defining moments of their growth. Are you ready to grow?
Today we look at culture so that you are taking it to the next level. In fact, we think you should be able to innovate your culture the way you innovate your product. And I say we because my guest today is Greg Smith, the CEO of Thinkific. Thinkific is an incredible platform. It's a software that allows you to put course materials and training materials and videos and frameworks and documents and all kinds of things to guide people through the training process or the learning management systems of today's world. And Thinkific is actually one of the platforms that we use to help us operate our business. It runs our program called Leadership On-Ramp. But we talk about, innovate your culture as you would innovate your product with Greg today. What I like about this conversation is our culture should be growing and evolving. It's not the same thing. It's dynamic. And as we hire more people and as we continue to scale, we got to be willing to change these things. Some things stay the same, but be willing to try new things. What he explains is some of the things that worked inside their culture and some of the things that they had to innovate in order to make it work even better for them, and what that really means for your business. Lots of stuff is unpacked today with Greg. Hopefully you'll enjoy this as much as I enjoyed having it. Innovate your culture as you would innovate your product. Really is an interesting conversation. So here we are with Greg. Before we get there, just want to remind you, my job is to help you grow your company. I am an executive coach. We have leadership development for managers that want to become leaders. And we do this in service of companies that want to continue to evolve and grow. And we, a lot of different things and tools we use. But how do I describe this for you in a very succinct way? Is we make you better leaders. We make your company run smoother, more predictably. And we've done this consistently over time. So if we can help you in any way, let me know. I'd love to offer you a chance to kind of explore the work we have. One of them is a way to measure leadership. And we call this the Leadership Effectiveness Evaluation. And if you are curious about what that is, just go to genehammett.com, schedule your call today, mention that you got it or you heard about it on the podcast, and it's absolutely free. Otherwise, it's $1,000. But just mention it to us, either in the conversation we have, but you can send me an email or you just go to the website, genehammett.com, and schedule your call. The Leadership Effectiveness Evaluation will give you very clear way to look at your leadership and how to move forward and prioritize as your company continues to grow. Now, here's the interview with Greg. Hey, Greg, how are you?
I'm great. Thanks, Gene.
We're going to have a great conversation about leadership, culture, execution. Before we get there, tell us about your company, Thinkific.
Well, let's see. Thinkific, I've been at it now since 2012. So going on 11 years, and got started by making my own online courses, actually. I was teaching and tutoring in person, and just saw an opportunity. The more my course was successful, the more people reached out and said, we want to do what you're doing. We want to take our own knowledge, passion, expertise. We want to have an impact on the world, but we want to make money doing it. And so we built a platform, Thinkific, to empower anyone who's got knowledge, passion, and expertise to go and build a brand around it, put it out there, sell it to others, and have a positive impact doing that while building their own business.
Well, we chose the Thinkific platform. This is not sponsored content or anything like that. You guys reached out to me and I thought, oh, that'd be a good chance to just get to know the team behind the team. It is a great platform. We love it. There's some things that it doesn't do that maybe I just don't know how to use it completely. But we do love the platform for a part of our business. Greg, I do want to ask you a question though. Like courses, everyone's taken these courses before, and there's a little bit of a problem with people finishing the courses, and you can blame people for being distracted, or you can say that you need to create a better course or keep them more engaged. What are you guys doing to address this industry as a whole and the platform to keep people engaged and really have courses be a main part of their learning, stable?
Yeah, certainly. I think when you look at anyone buying anything that is purely one-way consumption for the purpose of education, whether it's, that bookshelf I've got behind me and another one in the closet next to me, or a course that you've bought, one of the biggest challenges for that is often, is someone actually going to consume it? I mean, I buy more books than I read for sure. I buy more courses than I finish. So there's a few ways to look at that. One is completion the best measure? I would argue no, it's important, but it's not the best measure. What I actually look at is, are we moving people meaningfully towards their goal? And I'll give you an example. One of the first online courses I signed up for was through lynda.com before they were acquired by LinkedIn Learning. And I was trying to learn how to edit a video for my niece's birthday. And I took parts of the course. I got all the editing skills I wanted. I edited the video. I was super excited with it. Goal achieved. I'm happy customer, but I completed 30% of the course. So on an internal metrics basis, they're looking at me probably as a failure, but I got everything I wanted. The other thing is we go way beyond courses. So I think that the key here is don't just stop at a one-way consumption. Here's a course, full stop. There's so much more you can do.
Well, I love the platform. We're not here to really talk about the idea of software and learning platforms as a solution. We want to talk about the culture, the leadership that has made Thinkific the company that it is today. Give us a highlight of how you see the company, like number of employees and kind of whatever you can share with us to really get an idea of where you guys are at this moment.
Sure. We're just under 300 employees. We're doing about 56 million US recurring revenue annually and growing. And then we help our customers sell billions in their learning products, which span the gambit from courses to communities and memberships. And then, internally about 300 people. That's split across. We've got, our big R&D team, big go-to-market team, big customer success and support team, and then all the supporting layers of finance and operations, of course.
So what are the biggest challenges you've had to overcome as the company's grown to this level, 300 employees and 56 million in monthly recurring revenue?
Annual recurring. I wish it was monthly.
Annual.
That'd be great. We'll get there. We'll get there. So challenges, let's see. I mean, so many. Early on, everything from product market fit to finding early customers. And then more recently, we IPO'd a couple of years ago. So we are publicly traded. So there's some obvious challenges with just the way the tech markets have performed recently in terms of perception of tech stocks or stock markets in general. And then for about the first 8-9 years of the company, we were profitable or very close to profitability at any given time. So we're really efficient with our cash spend. Went public, raised 180 million, and started spending money more aggressively to capture the market, which in some ways was really good and was the right thing to do at the time. But it also led to us hiring more people than we could really put to proper use and grow into in a short period of time. So we were overspending. So we've actually gone through 2 rounds of layoffs where we've reduced the team from 500 down to 300 over the last year and a half. So that obviously introduces cultural challenges. It's certainly not an easy or a fun thing to do for anyone. But we're through that. That's behind us. And now we're near profitability again and going to hit that shortly. And so now really just leaning in and focusing on growth.
Well, we talk about growth-oriented companies, which you guys certainly were one of these because you don't get there without having this. And you go through different inflection points as a leader. And really, this is probably about you, Greg, more than anything else. What do you think the first inflection point you had as a leader of this company?
Probably one of the first is when you realize you can't be in every room conversation, every feature that's being built or campaign that's being marketed. And you start to, for me, it was a really exciting moment to see big, exciting things happening that I had nothing to do with, or in some cases, very little knowledge of the specifics of how it was being done. And going through that transition of, in some ways, we called it giving away your Legos, right? Like handing off the projects that you used to be a critical part of and just, checking in on them. Like it's not abdication, right? It's delegation, not abdication. So being able to delegate and then, get the right amount of involvement and figure out what that right amount of involvement is. And I think that was something that started happening at 25, 30 people. And it's continuing to be an interesting challenge opportunity to this day.
You said this word delegation, and it comes up quite often in my coaching and what I'm doing with people. What would you say your key strategies for delegation are that have made you the company that performs at this level?
Yeah, look, we don't always do this right. So here's my ideal scenarios where we try and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And I think this is an iterative and evolving process. But I think if you can find, first, it's asking who. So the mistakes I've made in the past and often around picking the project over and not sorting out who's going to be owning it. So if you are going to delegate, who you're delegating the ownership of project to is probably the most important decision. Are they the right person for the job? Do they have the skills necessary to accomplish the goal you're setting? That's the first thing. The second thing is making it really clear what success looks like. Too often I find we delegate and then we're disappointed with the results, but it's not clear what success looked like especially to the person who took it on. So I think you find the right person, you make sure it's really clear. This is how we're measuring success, and this is what success looks like, and then ensuring that they have the resources, the authority if necessary, the team, departments, the backing to go and achieve that. And then you have to gauge your involvement in it. And for me, gauging involvement, there's a concept in High Output Management by Andy Grove called, it's a concept in there about how engaged you are when you are delegating, and it's called task relevant maturity. And so it's looking at the maturity of the person you're delegating to in the task they're performing, and that determines your engagement. So it's not that you should be a hands-off leader or a hands-on leader or a micromanager. Your level of engagement depends on the task and that person's maturity in the task. So you can vary from very hands-off to very hands-on and very helpful, or very just, checking in monthly, depending on their maturity in that area of task. But that's generally my approach: is pick the right person, give them clear measures of success, empower them to do it, and then determine your level of engagement.
Now, I just want to add a little bit to the delegation part. I think a lot of people want to delegate better, and they don't take time to have powerful questions upon delegating. So let me just give you a few things I want you to be able to do. And these are maybe repeating what Greg's already said, but just the framework I give for my clients happens to be, what does good look like? Which he did mention that, but just be really clear. Have them repeat it back to you so that you're in sync. If you think this is going to take one day, then it shouldn't be something that takes a week or 2 weeks or 4 weeks. You should be able to frame it in and whatnot, timing wise, but also what does it look like? What is that work product? The second question you might ask inside this is, when will it be delivered? If you're delegating to something, you want to make sure that they're giving you an accurate time frame. They're able to come back and say, well, I'm working on these 2 other projects, and you guys sort of negotiate, if you will, and be real clear about the date at which we're delivering. And it could be a first draft, it could be, a part of it, but be really clear about what the date is. And then thirdly, I like the ownership question, which is like, now that you understand this project, do you own it? And I asked that specifically to someone because I want to know, are they willing to own it through the challenges and through the setbacks that may come their way? Or are they just sort of, kind of interested in doing this project, which is not good enough for me and my team? I want them to truly own it. I actually find it when I use my own team and use these questions with the team, they actually appreciate owning projects, and it gives them a chance to really contribute to the overall success of the company. And the final thing inside this, the final question, if you will, is how are we going to document this and really hold you accountable to it? And discussing those things in advance makes it better to delegate, makes it easier to check back in and see where you are, see what the progress is, and so that you don't have to micromanage them in any way. Those are 4 questions to help you delegate more effectively. Now back to Greg. Well, love the framework that you've just built for us there. I think a lot of people are missing some of these key elements, and you probably learned the hard way. I want to go a little bit beyond this. Your company doesn't get to this point without being really good at executing. Is there anything that you guys do that's unique or different inside your culture that you feel like plays an impactful role in you guys executing at the level you are?
Yeah, I think I mean, one thing we do that is both a lot of fun, but I think does drive this is we do a lot around innovation. So because we're a software company, we're trying to build for our customers. We do this thing called Blue Sky Week, and it's sort of like a hackathon that goes for a week long. We do it once a quarter. We had experimented. We were looking for a way to amp up innovation and really unlock the creative minds within the company. Because often you'll have, managers are the ones giving the ideas, leading the teams. Yeah, how do we do more to unlock the minds within the teams of all these brilliant engineers and designers and others that you have within the company, or the people who are talking directly to the customers? And so there's ideas. Google had 20% time. So we tried giving everyone 20% of their calendar to just, work on whatever they want to work on, innovative ideas. We tried dedicating Fridays to this. These didn't work so well for us for a variety of reasons. So where we landed, that's been working really well, is once a quarter, we dedicate a full week. Everything else is off the calendar. And it is just, people pitch ideas. They self-form teams at the start of the week around these ideas. Anyone can pitch an idea. Anyone can jump on a team. And then through the week, they build something and then they demo it at the end of the week. Those are kind of the only requirements: a pitch at the start, a demo at the end. And the stuff that comes out of this is like, we get more done in that week sometimes than we do in a whole month otherwise, because they're just fully unblocked and unlocked from all other activities. And you get to go after something that's really impactful.
Now, Greg's been talking about innovation, and I love companies that are really committed to innovation. One thing I want to remind you of is you want to make sure that the best ideas win. If you are the CEO or you have anyone else who is a dominant force and want to make sure that their ideas win, it actually does the culture a disservice. You want to make sure it's a place where the best ideas win. It's not about you winning and you getting your way. It's about people feeling safe, feeling, actually confident in sharing their ideas and not being ridiculed or judged for that. You want to make sure that you are encouraging that as a way the culture operates, and so that you are encouraging the best ideas to win, not just your ideas. Back to Greg. It's fascinating to know that what doesn't work just as much as what does work, I think, in organizations. And those listening in here that are trying to unlock innovation, they probably read the articles about, this free time or Fridays or these extra ideas and even hackathons. I love the way you guys have framed this in. What have you learned about, unlocking the manager's ideas as you go through Blue Sky Week?
Yeah, well, it's the managers, but also like a lot of Blue Sky Week is unlocking the individual contributors. So people who aren't managing and don't normally have that sort of, we're going to build my idea. So really the thing is by allowing anyone to show up, giving them the free time to be creative, to pitch an idea. And then it's kind of a democratic process and people vote with their feet, right? If you've got a great idea and you're able to back that up with a little bit of data or excitement, the team will walk to you and say, we want to build this with you. So I think that's one thing that unlocks it. And then because we do it every quarter, it sort of builds more of a culture of being accepting of anyone's ideas. And so even in a day-to-day basis, we're more likely to say, hey, who on our team has a great idea? Similar to what we do in Blue Sky Week that we could do to, unlock and move this metric or, make a change for our customers in a really positive way.
I love that you can use it outside of the Blue Sky Week because, obviously that's a fun thing for people to do. And I did hear this. There's more ownership. They're not distracted by meetings that they might normally have. They're able to really make an impact. But you guys when you face a problem or a challenge, you're able to leverage that concept for new thinking. And I'm glad you mentioned that because it's not something that's kind of was apparent when you first described it.
Right. Thanks.
Greg, we're talking about leadership and culture that makes companies really work and grow at the pace that you've grown. What do you think we haven't touched on that you feel like is important for people to know in today's world?
I think there's rhythms and rituals. Like we have great ideas, but then you need to put in place the rituals and the rhythms to accomplish them. And then the other thing is just where you spend your time tends to be where the company goes. And I think as you scale and grow, this can be quite difficult, especially as a CEO, as to where you allocate your conversations and your meetings and your brain trust. And so I like to it's very easy to get pulled into problems and risk and, analyzing and fixing and improving the things that aren't working, as opposed to leaning in on the growth. Like when you're getting started with something new, it's all you have is growth, right? It's like, what's the idea? What are we going to do to grow, to find our first customer, to find our first 1,000 customers, or our first 1,000 in revenue, or first million? As you scale, it can become more and more about the problems and the challenges. And this is often where the inclination of the team is to bring to you. And so I think one of the biggest challenges and opportunities is to really try and turn your mind more to those growth levers. And I read and follow a lot of people and look at coaches, and there's a lot of interesting concepts out there around this stuff for sure, around, trying to drive your brain, your meetings, your teams, conversations around what's actually delivering growth as opposed to just fixing the problems.
You had mentioned about where you spend your time. This is actually one of the biggest things that people come to me for. They want to know how other CEOs are spending their time, how they move from one level to the next, because it's not really clear. I mean, there's lots of books about leadership and growing companies, but you get so entrenched into the way you've always done it, the meetings that you go to. Is there any way that you can share with others how you've kind of transformed and evolved as a leader over the last few years?
Yeah, and it's certainly iterative, and it's not always at its best. And I'm sure I try and go through a bit of a calendar and time audit at least once a year, if not twice. So I'm just going through this right now, and I'm finding I am spending a bit too much of my time more on like problem solving and improvement as opposed to growth. But I think, auditing your time and just getting a very realistic data-driven approach to where do I spend my time and even what's going on in those meetings is a very helpful start, just to get a stark view of reality, because I think our gut perception is probably wrong. Then you're faced with those facts, and then it's deciding, where do I want to lean in? And where I try and lean in is, what are the top 3 growth drivers in the business, right? How can I focus my time there? And how can I focus my, meetings, agendas, all of that, back towards those things. So that means checking in on the progress, talking to the people who are running them and leading them, being part of the conversations of how we could unlock more growth or what the future opportunities are. And there's certain things, obviously, you do want to be spending your time on: strategic planning for the future, talking to customers. But I think I audit my time regularly, and then I look at, here's where I ideally want to spend my time, and then I come back and kind of apply that as a priority over my calendar.
I love the detail of this. I've used the same tool with myself. I've used it with clients because it works so well. I will tell you, one of the things I do now is I color code those top 3 things so that I know, am I hitting them or not?
Nice.
I will be honest with you. One of the things I found that I wasn't doing was coaching my team. I'm coaching clients, and it's very easy to say that's the core of the business. But as I added people to the team, I had to make sure and be intentional. I'm actually coaching them about not just their job and talking about their work, but whatever it is. Like one of the conversations I had with someone on my team the other day was patience, which is very different than the work output and whatnot. And this time audit that you mentioned is a very powerful tool when you do it well. I really appreciate you being here, Greg. Is there anything else that you wanted to bring up as we wind down today's conversation?
I think one of the things that comes to mind as we go through all of the things and how a lot of these ideas came to be was just treating your culture and operating a little bit like you would your product, in that be innovative, right? And so we talk to our customers constantly and get feedback, and we use that to iterate on our product offerings and pricing and go-to-market strategies. We try and do a similar thing on kind of culture and operating systems, is surveying our customers there, which is our team, understanding what's working and what's not at all levels of the company, and then making iterations and improvements there. I have to add the caution, because I've slipped into it before, not to make too much change. But constantly looking for how you can improve and iterate as the company grows and continues to evolve without making, really dramatic changes. Like, for example, our core values haven't changed since we created them 10 years ago. And I think that's a good thing.
Great place to stop. I'm really excited to have you here on the show, share your story, share, the impact that Thinkific has made in our business. It really has been a great tool for us to scale beyond just traditional coaching and be more of a leadership development company. Look forward to using you guys for a long time.
Thanks, Gene. I really appreciate it.
Now, what a great interview. I love the fact you talked about the Blue Sky Weeks and what they do there and how the impact that makes. Also love talking about, the culture and the, how he delegates and what really happens there inside of an organization. So hopefully you've got as much out of this as I got out of it. We really focused on innovating your culture, which is really just about how you continue to change and evolve as your company grows. And you really want to make sure that you are evolving. All that to be said, when you think of growth and you think of leadership, think of Growth Think Tank. As always, lead with courage. We'll see you next time.